Len Johnson. Can I ask you to raise a hand if you've heard of Len Johnson? Yeah, I thought you guys might, but we did Sale Grammar School earlier today and one hand went up in year 8. So it's an important story, an important time to tell this story during Black History Month, and we are delighted to be here. So hopefully, if you know about Len, brilliant. We're going to celebrate his life. We're going to celebrate his legacy today. If you don't know about him, you're going to find out a little bit about him. And it is interactive as well, which is why I'm down here with you guys and not on the stage, because we want to know what you think about stuff. We want to explore with you how we can progress the fight for racial equality. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this show, or in fact, I'm going to invite Lamin to tell you a little bit about this show. I know some people in the room know Lamin, so we at Odd Arts decided to produce this play and to tour it because Lamin approached us and told us about Len Johnson. We didn't know about Len Johnson, and we decided that this story needed to be out there. It is part of a wider campaign, which Lamin is going to tell you about, so I'm going to bring him up. Can you give him a big round of applause?
I won't use the mic, I'll just project. Oh, that's embarrassing, isn't it? Oh, is it? Well, we're doing the play without mics, so we'll have to really project. Right. So, for me, this project is not only about telling the Len Johnson story, it's far more than that. I'm mixed race, just like Len Johnson. I'm West African, just like Len Johnson. I'm Mancunian, just like Len Johnson. And I've grown up in boxing gyms since I was 8 years old. So why has it taken me 24 years to hear about this unbelievable story? There's a reason this has been kept from us, and it's very purposeful. History has been whitewashed, and it's time to change that. I've had lots of conversations with people about how we end racism and start to slowly dismantle oppressive systems that have been in place for many years. For me, education is one of the things we must focus on, and that's why this play is going to schools instead of public places. I believe representation is so important, but you also need to see yourself reflected in the history books. You need to understand that you come from greatness, and that black history doesn't just start and end at the slave trade, which is all we're taught about in school under this current curriculum. History is taught by the oppressor, not the oppressed. Len Johnson was a fighter in and out of the ring. He achieved so much in his time and faced many obstacles because of his skin colour. He wasn't allowed to become the British champion because of the written laws that were in place to prevent him from doing so. Britain has a great habit of ignoring their shameful past instead of talking about it and being transparent and moving forward. They would much rather pretend it never happened. And that is why this play is so important. It's about telling untold stories. It's about educating the next generation. Yes, it's part of black history, but it's also our collective history. It's Mancunian history. It's our working class history. Now, when I approached Odd Arts with this idea back in December last year, I made it very clear we need this to be a long-term project and not something just for Black History Month. We need to commit to telling this story all year round. I'm very happy that thousands of children across the city have now seen this play and are now, Len Johnson's now on their minds. But we have a long way to go. I can promise you this, within the next 5 years, Len Johnson will be a household name. I hope you enjoy the show.
Kind of throws us off when we have to. So raise your hand if you can't hear me. All right, you can't hear me right away down there, but that's okay. You can turn the mic on and we'll make sure it's inclusive for people. Thank you. It's so weird to be on a microphone. We've trained to use our voices to project them. This is not just a story, this is a discourse today. So I know it's the last event, but hopefully you've still got some energy left because it's not just us standing up in front of you and telling you a story. It's a conversation. So yes, there will be a bit of our little slot today that is a story that you sit and watch, but we're going to talk about it and we're going to try and use theatre as a vehicle for something, for action. So I'd like to start just by doing a little warm-up, and I would like you to stick your thumb out on your left hand for me, and your index finger on your right hand. And then, all I want you to do, I'm going to have to drop the mic for this. In between my legs is, you're just going to switch them. Just switch them around. Easy, right? Actually took me like an hour to learn this. But you can train your brain to do it. And if you're doing it, you're using your left and your right brain at the same time. And it's a NASA test. So if you can do this, you can fly a spaceship. Yeah, real talk. If you can do that, you can fly a spaceship. So, should we try something that's a little bit easier? I'm just going to say a statement now, and if you agree with that statement, if that statement applies to you, you're going to shout same, energetically, yeah? All right, so I'd quite like it if the Tories weren't in my city. Good, I'm fed up of coronavirus. Yeah, nice. What is going to come next? Sometimes I really think the world is unfair. I always feel angry about racism. I think that racial equality can progress to where it needs to be in my lifetime. Okay, not so sure. I'd like it to. All right, so we're united on that. We will come back to that, with whether or not we think racial equality can progress to where it needs to be in our lifetimes. And hopefully we might work together on brainstorming ways we think we might be able to accelerate that process, because it needs it, doesn't it? So without further ado, we're going to show you a play now. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to watch and enjoy the play with you. It is about the story of Len Johnson. And as you watch it, I want you to think about that question. Where are we now in comparison to the story that you're about to see, which is the true story, which is all based on real life events. So can we give our cast another round of applause? And I hope you enjoy the show.
Let me tell you about the King Len Johnson. He was harder than you, me, him, her, them, Bronson. He was born in a place called Clayton. In England, named Boston. That's from Sierra Leone, and his mom was Irish. She was known for his boxing. Uncrowned champion. One of the best of his generation. But the British boxing board of controls. Rule 24 didn't take his game into consideration. Government back, no hesitation. It stated to compete in the championship fight. Both your parents had to be white. He had about 135 fights, 93 wins, 36 KOs. Just a shame it wasn't white like Mayo. Just a shame it wasn't white like Yale. Cause he would have been celebrated. So old type man like DJ Lamin, forget a man educated. No, he wasn't just a warrior in the ring, he was one outside of it too. He fought for his people's rights and jobs like his father fought in them booths.
You spelled black wrong, mate.
I'm here to protest all lives matter. Black, white, brown, yellow.
Yellow.
You know, Oriental people or whatever it is you still say. All lives matter. You ask me, your sign's racist, not mine.
Hey, look, I never said it was racist. Guilty conscience. Come on, do one. You're only here to wind us up.
No, I'm going nowhere. You lot will have to deal with it, won't you?
Yeah, what if I want to deal with it by giving you a right up to the jaw?
Well, that'll make a good headline, won't it? Black Lives Matter thug attacks innocent white protester practically writes itself. Get off me! Help! Help!
This pick.
are expecting a council spot check. Oh, that's all right. You can join us. We're all in this together, right?
Now, you're all right.
You believe that? Racist prick.
Yeah, and where was punching him gonna get you?
That'll make me feel better.
There are many ways to fight, both in the ring and outside of it.
Do you know that's going to be chiselled on your gravestone? Do you know that?
Funny thing, it's not even mine. I nicked it.
Who from?
Len Johnson.
Well, the basketballer.
That's Larry Johnson. Len Johnson, the boxer.
Never heard of him.
You're a boxer from Clayton who trains him offside and you don't know who Len Johnson is.
Well, who is it? Tell me then.
Len Johnson was a boxer, like you, from Clayton, like you, and like you, he had to learn there were many
ways to win a fight, both in the ring and outside of it. Yeah, I get that bit. I do.
Len Johnson was born in 1902 to William and Margaret Johnson. His mother was Irish, and his father was from Africa, Sierra Leone on the west coast. Now, that might be a common thing now, but in 1902 it was rare, and something that left him vulnerable to the racism and bigotry which was commonplace in the UK. Throughout his young life, Len often found himself on the receiving end, and one day, when he was at work in a factory when he was 19, he fought back. He was involved in a brawl with a factory worker who made a racist remark. His father decided to take him to a boxing gym so he could channel his frustration positively. And that was the start of Len Johnson's professional boxing career.
Come on now, big four, nice, yes.
His early record was strong, and by 1925, he'd earned a fight which should have made him the natural contender for the UK title. But there was a problem with that.
All right. Just take a minute. You need a rest. You need some water. You need air. You need to save your strength for tomorrow.
No. What I need is a new trainer, one that's not so old and slow.
No, leave me alone. I'll knock you out if I have to. Just give me a minute. Let me catch my breath.
No, I'm going to beat him tomorrow. I can feel it.
Aye, I'd put my money on you, but...
But what?
Well, what then? What happens after you beat Ted Kid Lewis, eh? He's a former champ. Makes you natural challenger, but you can't fight for the title, so who's left to fight?
You know the bank down on Market Street? I was there yesterday. Do you know what I saw? I saw a black man behind the counter taking care of white people's money. That's progress, Wilf. It's 1925, times are changing.
Aye, but not fast enough. The fight's tomorrow, and they're not letting a Negro fight for the title. Half Negro. Whatever.
Better than nigger lips and Sambo, right? That's what the world sees anyway. Come on. You caught your breath back yet, old man?
Rule 24, according to the British Boxing Board of Control, stated that anyone who wanted to challenge for a championship belt must have been born to 2 white parents. So, whether Len beat Ted Lewis or not, owing to the colour of his skin, according to the law, he wouldn't be allowed to challenge for the title.
And the winner by 9th round stoppage, Len Johnson!
Despite on merit being the natural contender, the law prevented him. So, Len left the UK in search of someone that would let him compete at that highest level and win the title he so desperately wanted.
You sleep any better last night?
How can I sleep in a country that has spiders that can kill you? Sharks, and scorpions, snakes, lizards. Do you know what I saw yesterday? A kangaroo came up to my hotel room window like it wanted to fight me.
Aye, they're tough. Collins, he uses them to train.
Seriously?
Serious? Story is, he lines 5 of them up, never lets any of them hit him, just knocks them out one by one.
Really?
You think he's scared of spiders? He bathes in bathtubs full of spiders. He lays there at night thinking about knocking you out tomorrow just like he does them kangaroos, while you're here scared of spiders.
Oh, hey, I never said I was scared.
You scared of him?
Hell no.
Sure, yeah.
Oh! Does he really train with kangaroos? You're a born fool, do you know that?
Yeah, got you riled up though, didn't it? Whew, come on, what'd you say we call it a night, champ?
Oh, hey, say that again. I'd be We get used to that.
I'm asking permission to go to a bar and get some food, champ. See, now, I know you're not drinking, champ, but I sure am, champ.
Sounds good. Sounds better than good. Sounds great.
And the winner on points and the new British Empire middleweight champion, Len Johnson.
Sorry, say that again.
Oh my God, you as well. And the winner on points and the new British Empire middleweight champion, Len Johnson.
All right. Bear with me because this is where it gets a bit complicated. Even though Len was declared the British Empire middleweight champion, The Guardian, back in the UK the following day, said he'd been wrongly declared as such, owing to Rule 24 and to him not holding the currently vacant British title. The Australian, Hugh McIntosh, subsequently publishes his own article citing his disdain for conservative Britain's racist attitudes towards Johnson. He declared he'd manufacture his own belting system, which wouldn't adhere to Rule 24, and he renamed it the Commonwealth Middleweight Championship Belt. He declared no race or creed exempt so that Len could rightly remain a champion. Just not a British champion. He successfully defended his title on 2 occasions before succumbing to Jack Payne in the 3rd, and he's considered to be the first man of colour to ever hold a boxing title.
Dear Mr. Churchill, I know you and I seem far from each other both in our politics and our standing in life. You, politician, and I, a boxer. You in the south, and I in the north. You white, and I black. Yet in truth, you and me are not so different. We both have a beating heart, and a love for our family, and a true drive and desire to be all we can be. Now I'm sure your younger self would be proud to see the man you've become, as would mine. But presently I cannot aspire to be anything more than I am right now, whereas you can. Well, I know you have aspirations to one day lead our great nation, and I'm sure that one day you will achieve those ends, because there's no written law or social restriction that prevents you from doing this. This is a privilege that you take for granted that I do not have. I implore you to reconsider the cruel and divisive Rule 24 imposed at your say-so by the National Sporting Club that prevents me from achieving my aspirations. Yes, I am black, but I'm also British. I ask you, as a fellow Briton, to allow me to become all I can be. And I wish you luck in becoming all that you can. Yours faithfully, Len Johnson.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply. As time goes by.
Come on then, champ. Let's be having you. Come on. All right. Take a second. Take a breather. Look, maybe we should call it a night there, yeah? You all right? Look, Len, you've had a career that anybody would be proud of. And I'm proud to have trained you. Commonwealth champion, that's not nothing. You were the people's champ. Even the best of us can't beat Father Time.
It was a beautiful dream, wasn't it, Wilf?
Yeah.
Len fought a 135 times, winning 93 in a career which spanned 13 years. Now, just to put that into context, Muhammad Ali's career lasted 20 years and he fought 61 times. Floyd Mayweather's career lasted 19 years and he fought 51 times. Len's career lasted 13 years, so that's 7 less than Ali's and 6 less than Mayweather's, and he fought 135 times, winning 93. And to put it into even more context, up until 1971, you could still box for up to 20 2-minute rounds. Then it became 15, and now it's 12. No wonder he's knackered. His career statistics rival some of the greatest in the sport. But after retiring from boxing, which was all he'd ever known, Len had a question.
What the hell am I going to do now?
Vote for Len Johnson! Vote for Len Johnson! Communist Party of Great Britain!
Vote for Len Johnson. Vote for Len Johnson. Thank you very much. We'll pass one down. Vote for Len Johnson. Thank you very much. Vote for Len Johnson.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I don't remember this, but I remember being told about it. In 1904, when I was just 2 years old, my daddy had a boxing booth, and he would travel around from town to town, and people would pay their penny to watch him box. Now, he brought me in as a 2-year-old and introduced me as the youngest boxer in the world. He said he knew from that day that I'd be champion someday. But I was not allowed to be champion in my own country because of the colour of my skin.
Shame!
And my mother was brutally attacked in the street and scarred for life because she had the audacity to marry a black man. Now, too many times have we faced injustice because of the colour of our skin.
Yeah.
I would like here to publicly restate my solidarity with the Trenton Six. 6 men sentenced to death by an all-white jury with no shred of evidence against them, other than the testimony of other white men. Solidarity, brothers, we have not forgotten you. Now, I joined the Communist Party because under communism, all people are equal, no matter the colour of your skin, your religion, or your social standing. All people are equal. Change is coming. Now, we will break the cycle of oppression, but we cannot do that unless you have a voice. Vote for me, and you will have a voice, and your voice will be heard. Let me be your champion. Now, one of these days, you're going to bring me some good news.
It was close.
How close?
Close enough to suggest we should have another go next year.
Then we will.
I do have some good news, though.
Oh, yeah?
The NIS meeting about the Trenton Six. Paul Robeson's coming.
Great. They'll bring us some publicity.
He already has. I've had the Guardian on the phone. They want to cover it.
Great. Now, we may save those boys yet.
Can't wait to meet him. Hell of an actor. Tales of Manhattan. Brilliant film.
I won't bring that up when you see him. Seriously, he hates that film.
What, he hates it? Reiterate with. Hang on. How can he hate it? He was in it.
Yeah, but do you think it portrays the African American positively?
No, but that was kind of the point of the film.
And that's the reason he hates it. Seriously. Don't bring it up when you see it.
Alright. Yeah, got your post as well. Mailman. Go on, don't leave me in suspense.
From Dick Turpin, thanking me for paving the way for his success. Britain's first black British boxing champion. Ain't that something?
Aye, but has he sent you a cheque?
You know, my children and grandchildren will have the same struggles I did. Makes it all worth it. Times are changing.
It doesn't stop us worrying the process, though, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Len fought his whole life. He fought in the ring, he fought for equality, he fought whatever injustices were brought to him. He became like this beacon of hope for everyone in the community he served. At a time when it felt like everyone was against them, they knew they could come to him and he would fight for them.
sure?
I mean, it just seems like it's a little bit maybe confrontational.
Look, I'm not going to punch you, Wilf. Is that why you think we're here? So you can hold her down while I use my jab?
No, but what is the goal here?
Right, I ask her for a drink, she says no, then the battle begins.
Ah, see what that's mean? That sounds like you're going to...
Come on. Good evening, my good lady. A pint of...
Ale.
Ale and a pint of lemonade, please.
Did you read the sign?
Sign?
The sign on the door you just walked through, it says no blacks. You're a black, you're not
It's
allowed.
1953, for God's sake.
Well, sorry I didn't read the sign. I hope I haven't done anything to cause you offence.
Look, we used to let blacks in here, and then I had a load of trouble one night caused by a group of black fellas. So I decided I don't want any trouble, so I don't have any blacks. Now that's the rule, no blacks.
Okay, I understand and I sympathise, I really do. And if that's your rule, I'll leave immediately. But before I go, if I may just say one thing. Now, a few years ago, there was a group of unsavouries wreaking havoc across Europe. I'm surprised you never heard of them. They were called Nazis, and they were trouble with a capital T. Now, guess what race they were?
White.
Well, exactly. Now, your rule states if one person from a member of that race causes trouble, then everyone's banned. So what about everyone in this pub?
They're not Nazis.
And I am no trouble, I can assure you.
Look, I'm sorry. Rules are rules. No blacks allowed.
Rules are rules. Okay, I'll be on my way. Thank you for your time. You'll be seeing me again. I can assure you of that. Will?
Oh, hang on. What happens now?
There are many ways to win a fight, Will. Both in the ring and outside of it.
After the incident at the Old Abbey, Len led a petition demanding that they overturn their colour bar policies. He used all the connections he'd made as a leading member of the black community. 3 days later, he returns with the petition and 200 people of all races, including the Lord Mayor and the Bishop, and he demanded that the Old Abbey overturn their divisive, racist, and frankly inhumane policies. Soon after, other establishments up and down the country began to follow suit, and the colour bar policies of the era were finally at an end. Oh, and the landlady in the Old Abbey, well, she had to give Len his lemonade.
135 fights. 93 wins in 13 years. That's mad.
I know.
When I do a sparring session, I can't get out of bed for a week. You know, champion boxer lived round the corner from me, and I never knew his name.
Champion boxer, political activist, attended the Pan-African Congress. Go on, give him a Google, you won't regret it. And remember,
There are many ways to win a fight, both in the ring and outside of it. Yeah, I get it. I do. Now, come on, let's go to this protest.
I'm ready for my mic. So that's the story of Len Johnson. And somebody in the audience, do you want to do this now? Yeah? Somebody in the audience has told me something really exciting, which is that I believe... Well, do you want to tell me? Do you want to tell me?
Okay, I'm a big boxing fan, and I've got a replica boxing belt, which he should have been given. And this is a Lord Lonsdale boxing belt. So this would have been put round his waist. Yeah, replica.
And that Deej as well. Where's Deej? Where's Deej? Wow, look at that. No, I'm not Len Johnson. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted.
So this is a belt he would have sort of won, but obviously at the time and the era he wasn't allowed to wear it or even.
Wow.
No problem. Cheers,
Thank you, brother.
No, it's a clip box of memorabilia.
Oh, wow.
So this is one of my belts.
Oh, thank you very much. That's great to see it.
I was actually in the play for
All right, so that is incredible, and thank you so much for bringing it. What an incredible moment. It's not over here. There's lots of people that want to tell us stuff, that want to talk to us, and that's what this is about. So just so that you guys know, we do the exact same show in schools, in community settings, with some really young people. So we're actually going to perform at the National Football Museum next week, and that will be to year sixes. So we're having really complex conversations with very young people in the same way that we're about to now. Can I ask, before we do an exercise, just if anybody had any kind of resounding thoughts from that, anything that surprised you, anything that stayed with you? Yeah, I'm going to come to you.
Len Johnson was a communist candidate. How come I'm the only person in here with communist badges on?
Okay. How come? Well, maybe that's something for us to privately consider.
No. Like, listen, do you make sure this stop? It's like, it's sounding like the Socialist Workers' Party. To me, I was a member of the Socialist Workers' Party, right? I consider myself a communist as a member of the Socialist Workers' Party. Why the hell are we all sitting back denying that we're communist parties just because of this fear of being related to Stalinism? Why shouldn't we be telling the world that, no, we're the real communists, not the fucking Stalinists?
Yeah, I hear you, and I hear that frustration around. I think it, just to reflect that back at you, it sounds a lot like fractions of the left that kind of refuse to unite, and it can frustrate us, can't it? So thank you for sharing that. Did you want to say something in response?
What we need to do is that, I'm happy for you, great that you do that, but we also allow ourselves to be who we are. We're Black Lives Matter, we're united, we are doing what we're doing, and what's great about this play is telling us how much we need to decolonize the curriculum, how much we need to make sure this Eurocentric kind of voices that we're hearing. Great Britain will not be great without the contribution of migrants. Everything, if they tell us to go back to where we came from, we'll take every shit we brought and let's leave you with potatoes and shit. But let's tell you something like that. Let's make it clear that Len Johnson's history, there's so many sheroes and heroes that don't wear capes, that look like us, that will constantly get written out if our allies and if the oppressor keeps writing our stories. So people need to do what you have done today, and people need to step in and make sure the full story is being told. So we're not going to be here to say who's the communist or who's not, but what we're going to say is Black Lives Matter, and we're going to say the story needs to be done.
Brilliant, thank you for that. I want to pick up on a point that you said then. There's loads of hands up and there's going to be time for everybody to speak. We have until 9:30. But you said about decolonising the curriculum. What's really interesting, that it doesn't matter what audience we've had, that is actually the key thing that has come out of the workshops that we've been doing. Where we did Manchester Council chambers with a load of councillors. We've done loads of schools, and it doesn't matter whether it's a 12-year-old or whether it's a councillor or Manchester City Council. That's the main message we're getting. So I guess my invitation to you is to join us to think about, well, how do we achieve that? Because it's difficult to do it at a local level with educational reform. So how can we work together to achieve that? There was lots of hands up, so I'm going to come over to people that wanted to say stuff. I'll come to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of the time when we're in schools or in this world or whatever, they talk about his story, history, not her story, but history. But it shouldn't even be a story. It should be the truth. It should be just the truth. Don't tell me about no story. You're not making up no Nancy story and telling me no shit. Tell me the damn truth. Tell me the word. Speak the truth, what really happened. Because not all of Africa was slaves. Not all of Africa was slaves, and not all black people were poor. So don't tell me no foolishness. And it hurts when I hear that. But to think that in 1902, we're still hearing the same thing in 2021. What's going on? What's going wrong? Where are these people that say that they care and they love people? They're supposed to be conquer and divide in this country. That's all it is. They don't look after anybody. They don't care about people, but you're here to work. Come and save the country, here to work. Do their country, do what you're doing, do the nursing. I did a play the other day at the Zion Arts Centre about the Windrush, and that story was terrible. It made me cry because I couldn't believe that people were treated like that. My son watched it and he says, "Nah, man, Mum, is that how they went on back in the day?" I said, "No, they're still doing it now. They're still doing it now. They're telling a story and they're still doing it now. It should change. Just one more thing. One more thing. When you're a champion athlete, you come from Jamaica or Africa, wherever you come from. British runner Linford Christie's doing well. British runner this, British champion that. The moment you get into the problems, Jamaican-born Linford Christie was found with hello. What's going on here? Don't tell me nothing that you're trying to save this country and make people come together, because if you did, we wouldn't have to sit here today and talk like this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Really strong, really powerful, potent points there. I'm going to come back to thinking about Len Johnson, thinking about the show that we just saw, and I'm going to ask if there was anything else that particularly stood out to you just before we move on and do a little exercise. There's somebody over here. I can come all the way down, so I'm going to come to you. Go on, my lovely.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a lot has been said today about people being united, and on the play an issue came up about no blacks. They were also on the sign that said no Irish, and that's where I'm from. And I'd just like to say that it's not where we're all from, it's where we're going. And we are together, but let's not remember, you know, we've all got common, you know, like horrors. But the point is, it's where we're all going together now, you know.
Thank you. Okay, anything else that particularly stood out to you about the story that you just saw? All right, then. I'm going to ask you all to... I'll come to you, and then we'll move on.
Hi. So I'm from Stand Up to Racism, and know Lamin well because he's part of our Hume Stand Up to Racism group. So it was fantastic to finally see him in the play. It was as good as you said it was going to be. Not that I doubted it, Lamin, not that I doubted it. But I do want to say one of the things that we've done, like obviously we've been out on the streets over the last 18 months. I mean, in Hume, they've been taking the knee every single Wednesday evening to, you know, raise awareness of Black Lives Matter and the fight and the struggle for resistance and change. And one of the things that we did in Manchester through the activism and all the young people getting involved, and we had local groups, and we still got local groups across the city. And the one thing that we wanted to do, and young people came together and had meetings, and they said, you know, we talk about black people being slaves, we talk about depression, we never celebrate our successes and who we are. So one of the things that we've done as Stand Up to Racism in Manchester, we created a little booklet, and it's called Made in Manchester. And it's that people like Len Johnson, he's one of the people that are in the book. Deej over here, brother Deej here, comrade, has written a section on it. He wrote the section on Len Johnson, and we want it to be a celebration of black people. And I think that's so important, because so often we don't celebrate who we are and what we've done. And that whole booklet is just little chapters. They're not huge, really quick reads of people who were gone before us, part of the struggle before us, but people who are here now. You know, people who are part of the struggle today that, you know, are making history, because they never talk about our history and the history that we made. It's always their history and what they did for us and how they saved us from slavery, how they ended up slavery. They never say, actually, we create the slavery. You were the ones that fought back and changed the world. And I think I just wanted to say the booklet is available. I know lots of schools are taking it, lots of local libraries are taking it. But for us, it was about young people coming together and us as activists writing our truth and celebrating our history and what we're doing today, not just in the past. We're still part of making the history today. And I just wanted to say that, and I think the play is so much part of that, celebrating who we are. So thanks very much for doing it.
Well, thank you, Lamin, for bringing it to us, and thank you for making that booklet because it sounds great. We'd love to get hold of some of those. And I think it's, yeah, like you say, it's about controlling our narrative and it being collective celebration of the brilliant things that we are doing. So we might actually get onto that. But for now, can I ask everybody to stand up for me? I'm going to show you, we're going to run through one of the exercises that we do in all kinds of settings, but including schools. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to tell you some statements. If you agree with me, I would like you to stay standing up. If you disagree, you're going to sit down. And if you're not sure, you can hold both hands out. I've only got one because I've only got one available hand. And just do a little shaky. And I'm going to come and talk to you. So the first statement, I'll be interested to see where this goes with this audience. Protest creates change. Protest creates change. Stay stood up if you agree with that. You can sit down if you disagree with that, or you can do the wobbly hand if you're not sure. And you can change your mind in this exercise, as in life as well. So if someone says something that influences you, you can shift. Everybody in the room, oh, we got one shaky hand. We got one shaky hand guy. And we got somebody sat down. Okay, we're going to talk to the minority viewpoint before we come to the majority viewpoint. Let me give you the mic. Tell me why you're unsure.
It's not that I'm unsure in what protest achieves. It's about the way we go about that protest. And sometimes we see people protesting because it's a cool thing to do and not thinking about the meaning behind it and not carrying that forward and not supporting communities that do that. For some people, especially at the moment, it's just an Instagrammable image to say I was there. And that has its positives as well, but it's about how we move forward collectively doing that.
Thank you for sharing that opinion. So to reflect that back, that it's kind of, you're saying it feels like it's quite a fashionable thing for some groups. All right, I'm just going to add a disclaimer to this as well, because the year 7s and 8s that we've been with today have been beautiful at this, but we're going to respect each other's voices and opinions, and if we're going to challenge them, we're going to do it respectfully. Does that sound all right? So I'm going to come to somebody that maybe might have a different viewpoint now. Does anybody let's come over to you. Yeah, I'm going to come over this way. Do you want to tell me, you don't have to take the mic unless you want to, do you want to tell me where you're sat down? Yeah.
Hello. I sat down actually because I don't believe that protests do create change. I believe that a protest is just an expression that you're not agreeing with something, but it doesn't create any change. How, if someone can explain to me how walking or marching from A to B creates change, I would be kind to listen, because I haven't seen people doing it for years, and have you got anywhere with it? Thank you.
I think you summarised that point really clearly. We will come to you, but there's other people that want to talk. Yeah. So I think you really concisely summarised why you feel that, and that's a valid feeling. Can I ask people to give me a little kind of nod if you kind of feel a little bit frustrated sometimes by what might feel like a sense of powerlessness? All right, so actually some of us do resonate with that viewpoint. We're going on process. We want to see the change, but the change ain't coming quick enough. So actually we do resonate with that viewpoint. Let me come, does anybody else want to tell me why they stood up? Okay, I'm going to come down here. Why you stood up, my lovely?
Thank you. I totally agree with what was said as well. It feels like that a lot. But I just came back from my country in Serbia, and I went to Pride there. And every single year, Pride there gets just a little bit less oppressive. Last year, the police were not letting anyone in with a police blockade like they do with us, but all around the city centre, they weren't letting anyone in. This year, they only let queer people in, and they stopped an anti-Pride protest that were burning stuff and an anti-vax protest from coming in. 3 years ago, the police were causing the violence. 4 years ago, police were killing people. And at that protest, people were saying, they were like, we've been doing this for 10 years. 10 years ago, they said, you're completely crazy to even step foot on the street. And then they went again, and they went again the next year, and every year people were getting killed, people were getting hurt. but every single year it gets that tiny bit better. But I will say, over there, where there's a country that is not a colonial power like here, you can sense that the protests there have more impact because the government gives a shit about what other countries think of them. Here, we could shout every single day of the week with probably half the fucking country, and they would still not really give a shit because they don't care about what other countries think. So here, yeah, it feels a bit less powerful, but I still do think it makes an impact, and it changes a bit every time.
So it's about persistence. That's a really beautiful example. Thank you so much for sharing it. So about persistence, chipping away, small change, I guess, is what you're saying, and then suddenly we see a big shift. All right, let's do one more then. It's everybody's responsibility to challenge racism when they see it. Stand up if you agree with that, sit down if you disagree with that, and give me a little shaky hand if you're not sure. Or you could be swayed. Yeah. Okay. So most people have stood up, but we have got some shaky hands. And I'm going to come to people that I've not spoken to before. Can I come over here? Can we pass the mic down to this lady with the shaky hand?
Oh, it was just, I was thinking if you're putting someone in danger, as in they're in a very vulnerable position, and they're like, oh, I should stand up to this, but I would be in danger if I did so, I wouldn't want to say that to someone else. That was the only thing. Yeah.
Really strong point, thank you. Yeah, that was being the mic bearer. Okay, so yeah, really solid point, and there was a little smattering of applause for that there. So we're kind of hearing that. Yeah, we wouldn't want to put someone else in danger by expecting it. Did anybody sit down?
You've got to put yourself in danger. Tell me why. Why? Because if you think, the racists, the politically organised racists are going to go away because you're just good, nice people, it won't. You've got to organise. That's the way in which we defeated them in Oldham, campaigning week after week. We spoke to the school kids who initially were very antagonistic towards us, but because we spoke to them, because they knew that we were part of their community, with great credibility, and when the BNP said you were going to have their first councillors, their first MPs in Oldham, we ensured they didn't. It was passivity never accomplished anything. And I'd like to say something. Fortunately, I knew Wilf Charles, I knew Len Johnson, my dad used to box for Len, but what you've not said is the work that Len did in the League Against Imperialism, the work that he did defending the rights of black and people of colour who were sailors, the work that he did in the Pan-African Congress, and also, more importantly, when the Mosleyites tried to organise in Moss Side after the Second World War, Len and Wilf, they weren't only just involved in a protest at the pubs, they were organising people on the streets, and they effectively defeated them. And don't kid yourself that the racists that are politically organised will go away. They'll only be defeated by our activity. This doesn't mean to say that we've not got to campaign politically against the institutionalised racism which people suffer. I'm old and annoyed, as you can see.
Yeah, but look at what you've done in your life. Can we give this man a round of applause?
The important thing is, it's really important, it's good to see young people here, and you must stand up and fight. You must fight against all manifestations of racism.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I think how incredible that you knew Len as well and that you knew Wilf, so I'd love to talk to you about that. That's a really interesting place to end. You must fight. And because Len said, there's many ways to win a fight. So is it always about putting ourselves in danger? And I think that's okay to disagree with each other on that. But the important thing is that we're standing up for it. Okay. Let me come to somebody else that is stood up, or somebody else. Is there anybody that's really keen to say something? There were a few hands up. You are. Let me come round to you. Can I ask as well, whilst I'm doing the... You are as well, hello. Whilst I'm doing the walk around to this gentleman, if I'm white, If I'm not white, is it my responsibility to always stand up to racism when it is thrown at me? We'll come back to what you think about that, but I'm just curious about what you think. Is it my responsibility, if I'm a person of colour, to always challenge racism? No. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll come back to that and we'll explore that further. Hello.
You said before about the narrative. Every one of us in this room has fit the narrative of the oppressor by having a Black History Month. I don't agree with Black History Month. Black History is just 1 month. You get me? So when we see now, I used to post lots of things. I used to work in school, and that was, you know, the narrative of the headmasters. Oh, Trevor, we need to put you something in Black History. I'm like, why? It's all through the year. It's 265 days of the year. But every one of us fits that narrative by going, oh, it's Black History Month, we'll do something. My old man, sorry I call you old man, but it's out of respect, my brother. Do you know what I mean? He's been there, he lived it, he sees it. You know what I mean? You said before, will racism ever end? It's never going to end. We're black people, we know that. We know that. As long as there's black people on this earth, racism ain't going to end. Don't fool yourself to think that is going to be the scenario. Yeah, you can have hope. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist, right? And I chant about hope and I chant for change. But I know I'm 62 years of age, right? And I was told when I was a kid, there'll be no racism. No one will call it the N-word. Yeah? They talk about Black Lives Matter and the politicization of it and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Why? Because it's been hijacked because we want to stand up for our rights. All we want as black people is to walk down the street with my white friend and say, who are them two? Not who's the N with Colin, blah, blah, blah. So when you talk about the narrative about, is it this, is it that? No. Racism will always be here. As long as we are on this earth, my shade, my sister's shade, my sister, people of colour, as long as people of colour on this earth, there's always going to be racism. In this room, everybody wants to get on, we know that. Black, white, Asian, whatever. But there's a hidden agenda, and you have to be aware of that agenda. People don't want us to get on. Thanks.
Thank you. Lamens wants to say something, so I'm going to come to Lamin. There you go.
I think that's really interesting, Trevor, and I think we've taken this to Clayton, to a boxing club in Clayton, and the difference in opinions between different age groups is very telling. We did this performance today to 400 kids in Sale, and the optimism and the forward thinking of those children, diverse again, white, black, Asian kids, we said, do you think you'll see change in our lifetime? Every single one of them stood up and agreed that they will. So that's why education is the most important thing, because I hear what you're saying. I think it's negative, but I do hear what you're saying. It will be there. It's about slowly dismantling. I can't go day by day thinking we're not going to be able to shift the balance, because what's the point? Oh, we're never going to end racism. Sweet, let's just go about our business then. There's got to be an alternative to shifting the balance. We might not see the change in our lifetime, but we'll be part of shifting the balance. And in a few lifetimes, there will be a real change. I know the conversations that Lem was having in the 20s with Wilf, we're still having today. But this is the point. It's about shifting the balance, and it's about having that optimistic view. For me, I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker, but if we're just going to think, oh, that's it, we're just going to live with racism, how do we move forward? And like I said, all those children, 400 plus kids, all agree that they will see the change and they'll be a part of the change. So I just want to leave that with you.
Thanks, Lamin. There is hope. There is hope in young people, but it's also important to say that we did unpick the nuance around that. So they definitely accept that there's a struggle, but there is that optimism. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think it is important that different people respond differently. Yes, you can. Hello.
Hi. So what I want to say is white supremacy and its patriarchy is so deeply embedded into society that not actively partaking in anti-racism means that you are standing on the side of oppressor. So when people talk about, like, you know, racism's not going to end, rare, this isn't about the wheel keeping turning. This is about us as part of the resistance breaking the wheel. And people talk about protest and, you know, how much difference does it make? But the thing is protest is one element of the resistance. Resistance isn't a singular motion. And people who are part of the resistance do so from different abilities, different ages, different mechanisms. And it's about, we've heard about it all week, about unification of people, you know, my plight is your plight, my problem is your problem, standing together and all of that. If we all accepted that protest was the only way, and we didn't have people going out critically analysing policy and dangerous hostile legislation, then we wouldn't be knowing what to focus on. So you can't just say protests don't work without seeing all of the work that goes on behind the scenes. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's part, they have a wheel that they're turning, and we're coming with the hammers from every direction. That's all I wanted to say.
Brilliant metaphors. Thank you to that. I'm not going to add to it because it was so eloquent. Marvina wants me. I'm going to go. Is Marvina down here? Are you Marvina? Hi, Marvina.
Thank you. First of all, everybody's opinion, I'm listening, is valid. But I've got 2 children who look like me. They're Northerners. I have no option because I don't want them to fight like this. I have no option to keep fighting this system. Protest is a public service announcement. That's what it is. It's to let people know that I see you, I see your fuckery, I did not give you consent. I am going to do whatever I need to do to be part of the history to show my children that their legacy of what they get is me fighting. And that means I don't only fight for my children, I also fight for my gypsy and traveler brothers and sisters. Because it takes one oppressed group to be able to see oppression of another group. And this is the message I need all of us to really take. We need to be able to see that it is not an oppression Olympics. Guess what? The Eurocentric education system don't want us to understand that it's divide and conquer. It wants you to forget that today, when they come for you and you keep quiet, don't worry, they're going to come for someone else the next day. It took us seeing the way that the police were dragging some XR people. And I'm sitting there as a black woman saying, look at these guys, knock white people down. Bruh, and look at white people and say, welcome to the committee. It took them seeing the violence for us to say we are non-violence. We as black people or Black Lives Matter, we're tired of telling you guys we're non-violence because we are not the perpetrators. We're asking for equitable access to be respected, human rights, decencies. Do you understand we're the original beings? Do you understand that everything great came from Africa? Do you even understand that slavery is not our history? It's your own fucked up history. It's like that bad one-night stand that every year, I am black 365 of the days of the year. Thank you for giving you my months, but this is the only time my phone can't stop ringing. And stop asking black people to do stuff during Black History Month. Call me in November and make sure you have a paycheck. Because you should not involve us into community projects. Invest in black arts. Invest in black artists. Make sure you create the resources for us to decolonize the curriculum. And only when you're serious and you don't invite me only in Black history, I want to hear your voice. Otherwise, do not say Black Lives Matter if you're picking us for 1 month. Because for us to change it for our children, you need to look at the intersectionality of the shit we're going through. And for allies, you have no choice. You see racism, you act. You act when you see the inequality. You listen to the voice of the oppressed. You learn and unlearn your unconscious bias because you have it. We all have it. And then you yield your power and privilege. Don't use your voice and don't take too much space. I know, no offense to our white people, I'm just going to say, to white people in the space, I know sometimes you guys like hearing your voice. When you're in spaces, look and say, how diverse is this space? And who do I need to put on the platform? Not tokenizing them. Put them on the platform and listen to their voice. And then, don't just nod your head. Do shit. Do your homework. Don't put the label on black people to tell you not to be racist. Go. There's resources. As Najal would say, go and Google it. You will find out the information. Thanks.
Thank you. I got nothing to add to that, but I thought it was so powerful and so potent. And we're going to get onto this allies thing. We're going to do that in a minute. Before I do that, can I have everybody stood up one more time for me? So if you've sat down, if you're comfortable to stand up, if you can, that would be great. All right. So actually, somebody in this room, we've discovered knew Len Johnson or had met Len Johnson. I'm going to ask if he comes back to this moment in a flux capacitor, in a time machine, and we ask this to young people in school, because he says in our play, my kids and my grandkids won't have to struggle like I did. So if he comes back and he comes to stand next to me now, in the present moment, do you agree that he's going to be pleased with where we're at? Stay standing up if you agree, sit down if you disagree. Give me a shaky hand if you could be swayed or you're not sure. All right, so collectively we've sat down. We've talked quite a bit about why we feel this might be. There's a lot. We're not going to get through it all tonight. But it keeps coming back to education, which is, I'm just reflecting back what I'm hearing in this room. It keeps coming back to kind of allies as well, that we need to be better at being allies. We need to recognize our unconscious bias. We need to keep educating. This is not my opinion. It's what I'm hearing from people and kind of reflecting back at you. What we're going to do now is somebody talked, I can't remember who it was, but somebody mentioned All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. At the start of the play that you just saw, we saw protest, didn't we, in the present day? Can I ask you just to raise a hand if that situation resonated with you, the All Lives Matter versus the Black Lives Matter argument? Yeah, it resonated with a lot of people here. And is it just in that kind of environment, a protest environment, that conversation resonates? What other environments? Just shout some at me. Work. Public transport, not all men. So yeah, everywhere. Refugees, yeah, social media. Those are conversations we're seeing happen everywhere. So, and how do we think the character of Daryl, so I'm going to just invite the cast back on stage so that we can see our characters. So Daryl is Lamin's character, the character holding the Black Lives Matter sign. How did he deal with that situation? Could he have dealt with it maybe a little bit better? Because he got a bit angry. I'm going to come and speak to you because you're saying something, but I can't hear you.
When we was kids, we got sent to learn how to fight. Like, that was my dad safeguarding us. So whether people deem it right or wrong, like, that's how we was brought up, learning to defend ourselves and learning to defend our own.
100%. So it's about defending. Yeah, it's about learning to defend yourself because it's going to happen. This is what's going to happen now. This is a thing called forum theatre, and we do this in schools. We'll see where it goes tonight. So we're going to replay that scene. But this time, if there's a moment where you think this character could have tried something different and you can be creative about this, I want you to shout stop. All right? I want you to shout stop. Equally, we see this character, the female character, who is an ally, come in. So you can think about what the ally could have done differently as well. We're not just placing all the emphasis on this character. We'll get onto that character later. Does that make sense? You're going to shout stop at any moment you think this character could have tried something different, or we might have seen... Or this character here. Yeah? All right, are we ready? We ready on stage? Okay. That was quick. Tell me why you shouted stop.
The narrative was All Lives Matter. If that's the narrative, we wouldn't have to have a Black Lives Matter, would we? Okay. If All Lives Matter, why we've got a Black Lives Matter?
So if
all lives didn't matter, obviously we don't.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is you're putting yourself in the shoes of the character with the Black Lives Matter sign. You're putting yourself in that person's shoes. What would you have done differently in that moment?
I'd have stopped him asking that question.
Can you get up and show me how? Replace Lamin and show me. Come on, show. I'll do it with you. Okay. That's what we do in school. We get the kids up. You're going to do it. You're going to show us. Because do you know what? You can tell me what to do, but I'm not you. So you aren't going to be happy with me if you direct me. You've explained it, but sometimes showing is better than telling because we understand you better then. So you're going to have a go. I forgot your name. Marvina. Marvina's going to have a go. Can we give Marvina a big round of applause? Woo! All right, let's see what we get. Have you told Curtis? Curtis is the actor that plays Daryl, Dean, where you want to go from? Start again, right from the top. All right, so in your own time, when you're ready.
Imagine you are on fire in your building, everything is breaking down, and the fire ambulance is about to come down here. Imagine I say, stop. All houses matter. But guess what? Your house is burning, right? No, wait. I know it feels difficult to understand. I want them to pour water on all these other houses that are not burning because all houses matter. And guess what? Your house burns down. And by the time the fire ambulance comes, now let me see you say, all houses matter.
No, but it's not like that.
Wait, but you ain't got a house to speak, so now you're homeless. And guess what? Does your house still even matter? Because you don't have a house, though.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Is this progress? Is it progress? What do you think? We're getting some nods. I'm going to come and ask why in a moment, but we're just going to talk a little bit about this character first because I just want to reiterate to you that Curtis is an actor. It's not his legit opinion. And Curtis actually isn't white either, although he looks it, so he's related. So we can challenge Curtis, but we're not going to hit him or out. Yeah. All right, so who had their hand up? You did, and we've not spoken to you yet. Hello. Tell me why that was progress.
It's not about progress. What I wanted to say is a bit different on this because in the whole year that we had before when we were taking the knee, I was taking the knee every week, the same as I did in Hume and lots of other places in Chorlton. And we used to take the knee, and then there was a reverend from the local church, Laurie, and she would say a prayer at 6 o'clock. And we were doing this, and we did it every week. We had lots of honks from the horns. People would come past and join. But this young white guy comes up, and he's shouting, "White lives matter, white lives matter." And he went right up to, I was filming her doing the prayer, right up to her and pushed her. She's an elderly white woman. We called the police, and in the end, he was taken away. So when I hear or see people say, white lives matter, they're not allies. They're racists. And sometimes they're worse than racists, because that's what Nazis were saying. There was a second time when we had White Lives Matter in this city, and that was at the youth club in Gorton, where there was a black church, and they have a black minibus, and it's used to take people out on youth trips. And it was graffitied all over with White Lives Matter. Now, we had like a solidarity support event with the church group, and they were all there, and all the local people, and all the people from the youth club, and all the people who live locally, because they love that youth club and that church is part of Gorton community. So I don't think, well, my experience in relating those two things, and also people who drive past in a car and wind the window down and go, white lives matter, they are not our allies. Not all white people are our allies. And can I add another thing? We've just seen Priti Patel and other black Tories. They are not our brothers and sisters. For them, it's about money. It's about millionaires. It's about using their blackness as a way of getting on in their political career. Now, we have a different tradition here, and I think it's so important hearing from the brother about the fight against fascism and the BNP, and before that the National Front, and before that the Mosleyites in the black shirts of the 1930s. It was Jews and non-Jews who fought mostly in the 30s. It was black, white, and Asian who fought the NF and the BNP. And so I think this idea of allies is when we've got the same material interests. And I'll just end with this. And I know there was someone who was talking about the Communist Party earlier, but you know, Karl Marx said, white skin cannot be free if black skin is branded. And that's why I would say that I as a white working class person, the same material interest in fighting racism, because the likes of the millionaire Tories use racism to divide us because they want us to fight each other while they're robbing all of us blind and taking all the money to the banks. So it's about class and race and where they fit together and making sure that we unite and fight.
Thank you. Thank you for those passionate words. And I think that's a really interesting place for us to kind of talk about this character a little bit. Because you were talking about division and you were talking about White Lives Matter and where this character might have this sense of kind of fury. Well, I'm important as well. My life matters, and it's something that we're not going to kind of unpick it with you guys because you're a different audience to a school audience. But in a school, we would really look at that. We would look at why this character might feel aggravated and oppressed and upset, and then we talk about, okay, but is he ever oppressed or is he ever experiencing a barrier because of the colour of his skin? No. So that's a type of privilege, and we're looking at it that way. You've got your hand up, Mr. High-Vis Man. I'm sure you've got a real name that's not High-Vis Man, but I don't know it. I'll come to you. Go on then.
The reason why I see that progress, I share a bit of a journey I've been on in life. So I'm mixed race. I'm black, I'm white, and I'm Asian, right? Gets me quite emotional, so you'll have to bear with me. Now, growing up, I self-hated. When I was about 16, I found out my granddad was Pakistani. And that was in the early 2000s. At the height of Islamophobia in this country. And it takes a lot for me to stand up or to say this. I know many of you out there, I'm a good comrade now. The journey I went through, it was a hard one, and it was a personal one. And what moved me about what we're just seeing there with a comrade, it's education. It's going up to speaking to some of these people and saying to them, look, there's another way. And I've been on demonstrations of both sides. I've been with the far right, and I've been with solidarity with all our comrades. And when I go on a demonstration now and I see people just shouting at people, Nazi scum or this, that, and the other, it's counterproductive. If you get up to someone and you go and speak to them and educate them and share your opinion and understand why they fear what they fear. I feared that because I self-hated. I hated who I was. I hated who my family was. I couldn't admit that to myself. Much like someone who may be in the closet or something like that. And I think it's good to try and understand that. And get into schools like you're doing. I think what you're doing in schools is great. I think that's where it needs to be nipped. I love what they do in Northern Ireland and a lot of the new schools over there, where they're integrated, Catholic and Protestant. And that's the real way forward, and that's a way to win. Because you know what, ultimately, love always wins.
Thank you so much for sharing those experiences with us. And yeah, I think some really potent words. Oh, someone's had their hand up for ages. Who is it? Over here. Okay, I'm going to come to you. Go on, my lovely.
All right, this might not be the accepted thing, but I'm going to say, when I saw it at the beginning, like when you were going All Lives Matter and what should the other character have done, and I feel like saying, as a black woman, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. It's not my responsibility to educate a racist. It's not my fault that you're a racist. I'm talking about the character, right? And I just want to make that clear, because we hear so often about what can we do. The only thing I would have done in that situation is told you to shut the fuck up and get out of my space. I'm sorry if that sounds offensive, right, to people in this room who are talking about education and love, right? But there's a time and place for education and love. And when you're in my face, right, I'm going to give you it. I'm going to say, shut the fuck up, get out of my space. And I want to say this, yeah, exactly, by any means necessary. And I say this as well, as an anti-racist campaigner, you see, I stand on the streets and I leaflet and I campaign, and I've been doing it for years. I stand in Market Street on a Saturday giving out leaflets about, you know, the EDL or whoever it was before them coming to Manchester and how we need to organise and be together on the streets and stand in unity against the racists. And you do get the individuals. They come up, and you can tell within the first 5 seconds someone who you can win over. You can tell them. And I always say to you activists that come and stand on the store with me, look, there will be some people you can win over, and great, take the effort to do it. But you know what? After 10 seconds or 20 seconds, you know the ones that are hardened racist, and they're not my problem. I'm not here to educate them, to get them out of my face. And I just want to say that. I want to make it really clear. People talk about love conquers everything and all the rest of it, right? Well, when you want to stick it to me, right, there ain't no time for love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much as well for saying that. We were kind of going to start to explore that a little bit, because one of the things that we will ask in school, and yeah, absolutely, it is not your responsibility to have that conversation, and we'll ask that in school. I will come to you. So an option that we can choose in this moment of saying stop is actually we can walk away. We can choose to walk away from that conversation, or we can say, no, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you about this today. And so, yeah, thank you. I'd quite like to see you do it, but not really. I don't think Curtis would have liked it. So we'll look after Curtis today. You wanted to say something, didn't you? I'm going to give you the mic.
I'd love to say something, thank you. So I'm a traveller. I've got 2 mixed-race daughters, which is really unusual. Gypsies, Romans and travellers don't trust outsiders, and that's the only reason. It's not racism. For me, if you walk past evil and do nothing, that's all it needs. You know, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? If you know it's wrong, you have to stand up for that. You have to... The saying I hate the most is the 3 wise monkeys. Yeah? Because if you see no evil, and you speak no evil, and you hear no evil, evil carries on. You know, it's wrong. All right? They say a clever person solves a problem, and a wise person avoids it. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. So when the GTRs joined up with Black Lives Matter, we put them first, because it's about Black Lives Matter, and now we've come together. So obviously all lives matter, you know. It shouldn't even be an issue, that, you know. All lives do matter, but until you put your vulnerable people, the people that are being treated like crap, first, no one's life matters, does it? What's the point in any of it, you know?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You said it so well. Go on.
I'm dressed as Ian Duncan Smith today.
I thought that might be what some of these coons were about, and I kind of love it. Actually, it's come up a lot today. It's come up in school today, and it was really interesting to hear young people reflect on what happened with Ian Duncan Smith, because it came up in the question, does protest create change? And some young people were like, well, they've taken it a bit too far with Ian Duncan Smith, haven't they? I was like, oh, you're being nice to Ian. But it's interesting to hear the difference of opinion. Okay. Let's just talk about this ally character really, really quickly, because we've identified, I'm going to pick up kind of where we left off before. We've identified that this character does not have to have this conversation with the All Lives Matter dickhead. They don't have to have that conversation. It's their choice. But this character, has this character got a responsibility? Yeah. So let's talk about that. And what do we think this character could do? Because I think she actually did a pretty good job in the play. I think in the play she did a pretty good job. She came in at the point that she came in, unless we'd magicked it so she was there a bit earlier. Is there anything this character could have done differently in that moment? We got some people nodding, so I'm interested to hear what you're going to say about that. Is there anything this character could have done differently to get a better outcome? I'm going to come over to you because I don't think we've spoken yet. Hi.
Hi. So I can't remember exactly what bits you went into, but I think this is a general point of like allies. It's like if you're going to come in and step in, and you should by all means, you come collect your people because no one else needs to deal with them. But if you are coming in and you're trying to protect friends, or you're trying to be a good ally, you need to make sure you're giving the other people the space. If they want that platform to speak and air their concerns, then let them. That shouldn't be a choice that you take away from them. So if they want you to step in that space, and remove someone or deal with someone, then make sure that that's consensual. You can step in and take that, because otherwise, sometimes it can, is this me? Sometimes it can come across as though you are then silencing people who are already having to face that discrimination, already being oppressed. So just be mindful of that. A lot of people do it with like a good intention, but you know what? Some of us can speak for ourselves, and if you just let us, if you want to stand there and support us with that, that's great, that's great. But if we want to speak and we can and we're capable of it, then let us just do it. But yeah, that was the only thing I wanted to mention on that.
Thank you. So a really nice and usable advice to allies. Like, I'll take that. Read the room, basically. And, yeah, feel that vibe. I think this character definitely was kind of trying to stop her mate get in trouble. She didn't want to get him arrested and stuff like that. And what we're hearing a lot in school as well is when we ask this question, is it difficult to talk about race? What makes it difficult? What makes it difficult to talk about racism? Is young people quite often say, especially white young people, oh, you know, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to like try and have that conversation and get it wrong. So we do a lot of work around, is it better to get it wrong and to have said something and to have learned something and to have had a conversation than to not have said anything? But yeah, really beautiful point. Thank you. We are running out of time, and I think what's been really potent and important tonight is that we've heard so much from you guys about what you think. Let's just touch a little bit on the aftermath of what happened after the Euros and the response that we saw in Manchester with the Rashford mural and all of that, because I don't know how you felt about that, but I know at Odd Arts we are actually producing a play about racism through the lens of the Euros at the moment, and Curtis was, where is Curtis? Curtis, here he is. He was inspired to write that, and we haven't got any funding for it. We feel that, like the Len Johnson show, it needs to be out there. But I think what's kind of heartening about Manchester, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this, is that we do have a level of solidarity where community come together to respond, and that's really beautiful. But we're still not where we need to be. So if we were to create a manifesto for change, we keep coming back to education, I just want a couple of points from you guys to close. What needs to be on that manifesto for change? How do we accelerate the fight for racial equality so that if Len Johnson got in a flux capacitor and came and stood here, he would be more pleased with where we're at? What do you think we need to do? I'm going to come over and I'll come back to you. Go on.
Black history has to be taught in schools, part of the curriculum. Yeah, not just black history. Not just, well, everybody who was integral to the history of the empire, do you know what I mean? Their story needs to be told, and especially, obviously, for me as a black man, yeah, like I said to you before, you know what I mean? Don't just tell me in October. You know what I mean? Don't just tell me in October, you know. And when I said before, what Lem said about negative, no, what we're trying to say is I'm not saying you don't fight racism. I'm being practical to say, oh, was we here? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm one of the staunchest ever. People will talk to you about me and boom, I'm right on it. But I'm a realist. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you have to fight. Of course you do. You can't let it roll over. But the main thing is black history has to be taught on the curriculum. You just said history. It's his story. It's the story of the successor. If we would have lost the war, you would have known about the atrocities that the British did. Yeah? But we didn't lose the war in inverted commas, did we? So that's what it is. So for me, that's just my big thing. Black history has to be part of the curriculum.
100%. And this is what I'm going to come to you. This is what we're hearing everywhere we go. And I just encourage you to think about how do we accelerate that? How are we going to get it there? Because we actually had a meeting with someone from GMCA, the Curriculum for Life. We are talking to Andy Burnham. We're doing quite a lot because we're hearing this from audiences, and we don't just want to be a theatre company that come in and do a show. We're working with Lamin. There's a campaign to get a statue of Len. We want to work at how we can support that change, but it's actually quite difficult to think about how can we make that happen. So I'm curious what you got to say.
So we hear so much about education, right? Education and all that kind of stuff, right? But let's put it this way. If we have a prime minister, supposedly the highest office in the country, and he's a fucking racist, what are you going to learn? You can teach everyone as much as you want in the classroom about the history, but actually if they go home and they watch the news and you've got a racist bigot on your TV running the country, then that's a problem, I think. You've got to start from there. You see the level of racism has increased in British society, and the attacks, actually physical attacks on Muslim women like myself, go up every time he makes a comment about Muslim women and letterboxes. You know, it's not about what we got taught in school. It's about people that run society who use that narrative that make me a target for the racist. Trump, getting where he was, the level of racism went out because actually they give confidence to the racists on the street. So I think we need to think about, yeah, I think the curriculum's really important, but I do think our schools and some of our teachers are doing an amazing job. I mean, you are amazing, but it doesn't change the fact that you can teach kids what you want in a primary school, but then they go home and the news are on and the family are listening to whatever Boris Johnson has said. Until we get rid of racist leaders in this country and across the world, I don't think we're going to be it.
Thank you. Yeah, 100%, completely. And I guess the question, I don't think we're going to come up with the answer today, is how? How are we going to get there? How are we going to do that? How are we going to accelerate that? I'm going to come to you, and then I've seen you, so I'm going to come to you after.
No problem. So, first thing in the manifesto, white silence is violence, is very important. Because the thing is that, let's be real, when it comes to feeling powerless, we feel strong. I can feel strong as a black African queen. My voice, I'm not going to be silenced. But the truth of the matter, power and privilege matters. The people have power, but the people in power don't listen to the people. So the only way we need to amplify that is by educating the younger generation. I'm not going to lie. The reason is that when the people united, will never be defeated. When the people understand who they are and that they have a voice and influence, you need to remember this system has told us we are irrelevant. This system has told us that your voice don't matter. So this is why People's Assembly is quite amazing with what they're doing. Because by the way we work, we're looking at, it don't matter who you are, but if you can unite on the inequalities that we're facing, and we can teach these young people. Do you know how beautiful it is when you see young people come together and stand and say, enough is enough? Did you see when the policies came in London? Rashford, he's there doing what government cannot do. And everybody clapped and celebrated him as a British guy. But as soon as he missed the goal, the one thing I would say when you're doing this place, solution-wise, make sure you have black community contributing in how you write the story. Make sure that their experiences are your fuel and foundation of the conversation. Make sure that when we talk about culture, our culture is represented in a way that amplifies our history. Make sure even if it's a dual heritage person, white person, black person, check your privilege in the place of who you let tell the story. Because as you said, we can speak for ourselves. We don't need white saviors sometimes. We have this, there are people in this community who have been trying to tell the stories just like you're doing. They don't have the platform. We want to know who those people are so they can have a voice. Because what it is, we've got so many talented black writers, black actors, black musicians who are defying history, doing their shows. They don't get no platform. So maybe part of this project is to check that, to say who do we need to amplify in this storytelling and how do we give them a platform to do that. Also, let's give young people the platform to tell us what story, because it's their future. It's their future. The young people are feeling a little bit hopeless in this space. As a youth worker, as someone that teaches youth workers and social workers, youth work is a dying art because the government, this Tory government, doesn't see it as a vital part. So one of the things that we are doing in this space, we know we might not see what we expect to do, but hopefully art is a political tool. Let's start using it more. Let's start funding it more. Let's start committing more. Let's get celebrities to actually not be scared to say they're political. For those that say they don't do politics, when you buy bread, when you buy petrol, when you step out, you are being political. So stop making that excuse that I don't do politics, because your life on a daily basis is political. But your apathy for change is the problem. So white silence is violence. Tired of nice white people syndrome, where I'm not racist, but I've got a black friend who has a black cat, who has a black dog, so I can't be racist. Check yourself and make sure you amplify everybody's voice. That's the only thing I would give to that one.
Thank you, beautifully said. We have run over, so I'm going to come to you as the last voice in the room, no pressure, and then we're going to wrap up. Hello.
Yeah, education is really important. So you said, what could we do? Now, you can be very emotive, you know, you can be very emotional, and then you are under the influence of that. You become a slave to your emotion. You're easily manipulated. And that is the issue that we're facing. So how do we teach our youngsters not to be just in charge through their emotions? Because passion is good, but you need to balance it with reason. And that is the problem. They'll spark something. We'll go, yeah. We are controlled. So we don't want to be enslaved by anything. And the first step is not to be enslaved by our own passion, by using it just on its own. So we need to teach children how to have a dialogue, how to have debates. Whatever is prejudice, whatever it is, we need to learn how to be able to express ourselves in a controlled manner. We need to be in charge. We can't be enslaved by our emotions, because that's how they enslave us. So teaching them debate techniques, teaching them self-control, harness their passion, but balance it with reason. So it's both. You need both. Education is so important. We need to learn, not just RE. Instead of RE, let's have RE, but let's learn about our system. Let's learn about how we are governed. Let's learn about economy, the different types. Let's learn. She was very right. Oh, we don't do politics. Well, politics do you. Politics do you. It do your education, your health system, what the price of your bread, how your child's future is going to be. So we need to learn about politics, so it's not something alien. And we need to learn how is the voting system work, and then we can say, and then it's this even level with us. We can say, okay, I need to change the voting system. Okay, and then we're not so emotive. This is the problem. Black Lives Matters, all life matters, emotive things, you know? And that's when we start to have frictions, and that's when we whatever. You know, I'm an Iraqi. I came here. I had fantastic response. Iran, the war, you know, the Iraq, Kuwait, whatever. I was scared senseless. I was sitting in the bus and somebody said, where are you from? I said, if I say Iraq, am I going to get hassled? If I was somewhere else, I would have. There is beauty in the British public. And I'm an Arab. And I remember, if somebody asked me where I was, I used to be petrified because you'd go, ugh. You know, I came here and I had wonderful response. Oh, isn't that lovely? Oh, really? Really? You know, and that was a shock to me. So let's recognize the beauty. There's always going to be problems. Humans are humans. You know, you'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's let them all out and let's discuss it and let's see. It's not just about PR words, the intentions. You know, 1 minute, one word is out of, oh, you can't say that. 10 years later, oh, no, that's cool. It's not cool. You know, so the intentions, and this is where we need to control. Be aware of that intention, harness our emotion, and use our logic, and both of them. Okay, maybe I'm talking rubbish.
You are not. Let's give you a round of applause. What a beautiful place to end in thinking about seeing the beauty. Thank you for that wisdom. Let's think about that. Can I ask you one more? But we are running over. We've got to wrap up. Go on. I'm sorry. We are trying to have a discussion, but it is timed.
Don't look. You see, you've got to understand there are certain people who are incurably racist. You don't sit down with those people and have nice discussions. In Leeds, in Burley, when the racists came to us with broken bottles to bottlers, we couldn't say, oh, you're mistaken, you're miseducated. The only thing that stopped them was our self-organisation, and we defeated them physically. We also then went on to the pub which they used and ensured they didn't use that pub anymore. Certain people you do not debate with, you disempower them.
Strong place to end. Thank you for that. Thank you for that wisdom. And thank you, everybody, because there's been so many interesting discussions tonight, lots of differences of opinion, so much passion in the rooms. Can we give ourselves a round of applause? Thank you. And Lamin is just going to say the final word.
Can everyone just give a round of applause to Tess, who's facilitated a really difficult workshop with lots of big minds in the room. I mean, that's really challenging. It's very different when we do it to kids. Also, thank you to Ramona, who facilitated this and made it happen. And can everyone give a round of applause to Curtis here? He wrote it and directed it and acted in it. So without him, we wouldn't have those words. He's massive. Final thing, this Friday the 8th at the Old Abbey Tap House, the same pub that Len was kicked out of because of his skin colour. There's a drink up, there's a celebration. Deej, who is spearheading the campaign, will be there. He'll be hosting it. We're going to have a drink, we're going to celebrate. So come down, Old Abbey Tap House, Friday the 8th. Bless. Thanks for coming.